Could you help me?
You are past the point of help, my daughter.
We got it.
All right, we are live, and we just got the Prodigal Hill back. We got the Prince here. We got Big Kev's World, and we got Mel, the biggest geek in the world.
I wouldn't call myself that, but close.
No, she called herself the Mel.
The Mel.
That's what he called me. I didn't say that.
The Mel.
Like what?
Now, I wanted to ask you guys this. Well, I'm gonna start with a DC thing here. Now that DC has kind of made that deal.
No, this is not called the District of Columbia. It's,
So now that they made a deal with
Comics.
Oh, with Discovery, with Discovery, Discovery decided to take away the Batgirl movie, and now they are possibly waiting to see what's going to happen with Miller when he plays Flash.
Ezra.
Ezra Miller. Now, do you guys think that they should go ahead and do the Flash movie since they already got Keaton and Ben Affleck in there, or do you think that they should just not promote it and just make it go straight to like HBO Max, or what do you guys think? I'm gonna go with you, Prince.
Sorry, I didn't realize. I forgot I'm used to PK. I'd probably put it on hold for a little bit just to wait and see what's going to happen with that. They haven't really done a whole lot of, that I've seen at least, mainstream publicity for this movie.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, Ezra is kind of he is, but he isn't really a hot seat ticket right now in the media because of the shit that he pulled. But it's easier to wait, and I think, in my opinion, and just see where it's going to go from there, and then wait for the heat to die down if you're actually going to leave it with him.
What about you, Prodigal?
Well, you look at the DCEU, and to me personally, the Ezra Miller Flash hasn't really been like one of my favorite Flashes of all times. I think that a lot of his material and a lot of his witticisms are kind of like cliche. So, overall, it was already behind the 8 ball. And now you throw in, like PK was talking about, the issues that Ezra's having right now. And, they're talking about trying to reset the DCEU. And when you look at the Flash as this current iteration, and really they've kind of struggled to develop any kind of character outside of Superman and Batman right now, and Wonder Woman for the most part. They've got those guys set in stone. I think that if you're going to reboot it, if they reboot it, then I say, okay, yeah, sure, go ahead and run with the Flash. But, now you have Keanu Reeves coming back as Constantine. So yes. I'm wondering how this is going to work. I think that technically, if you were going to reboot it, why not use Keanu Reeves' Constantine to come in, bring in the Batfleck and, maybe some of the other DC, Henry Cavill and a lot of these other stars into there and use that to reboot it over the Flash. I don't know if that's a thing that they're considering or not. It's interesting. It's like one of those things to where it's like I don't know exactly what they're doing with it. And I have confidence in where they're going in the future, but I just don't know where they're at right now.
Honestly, I think in this situation, I like how they builded him in Batman v Superman, and then he had a pretty good role in the Snyder cut of Justice League.
DC,
but
he worked to Marvel.
I think he's gotten to a point now where, it's almost like 3 strikes you're out. I feel like if he's not going to keep his behavior in check, then they're probably going to have to do something with this. Like either they could show the movie and then recast them afterwards, which is what they're probably going to do, or Ezra, because Ezra has been like really.
Well, first of all, doesn't Ezra now want to be identified as a?
Yes, he does not. Yeah. He wants to be identified something different.
I looked at their wiki, and everything's all changed now.
But you don't want to miss the opportunity to see Michael Keaton again as Batman, because if you're
that would be great.
If you're going to shuffle him away with the Batgirl movie,
the best Batman out there, Michael Keaton.
So if you're
And
gonna,
Adam West.
yeah, if you're gonna shuffle the Batgirl on the shelf, and that's another movie he's supposed to be a part of, then you want to you got Ben Affleck and you got Michael Keaton both as Batman in this movie, so you can't just
Go to your homework.
switch it around now and then change it up. But I
Yeah.
do agree with the Prodigal. They are trying to do something different with the DCU, and they're wanting to change things around. But Batman and Superman's been the main two people for DC. Wonder Woman's getting up there, but no one realized how big of a hit Aquaman was going to be with Jason Momoa, and that's another.
The only downside to Jason, as much as I liked Jason Momoa's Aquaman,
Yeah,
He's not a skinny white dude.
he's not the bleach blonde fucking surfer looking California boy like Aquaman is for the comics and cartoon counterpart.
So am I to understand that there's no Clooney fans in here as regards to Batman?
Bat nipples?
I mean, he was a
That
decent
nipples,
Bruce Wayne, but as Batman, no, we can get him that. He would have been okay as like if they decided to do Batman Beyond instead of Batman and Robin.
Well,
the Playboy.
Get out of here. Go do your damn homework.
to be fair on that, Val Kilmer wore the bat nipples first. So to be fair, he had the bat. He had the. Well, if you go back and look at Batman Forever, I hate to tell you these people that, but if you go back and watch the movie when they put the new suit on, they showed the bat butt pad too. So he had the butt nipples and he had the butt and he had all that. So
The butt nipples or the back?
the
Butt nipples.
butt nipples.
For the monkeypox, I guess. You know what I'm saying?
I am on a roll today.
You've been saying just the
some funny
darndest
shit
things.
today. Yeah.
Boy, vey, Kev, we got.
But you know what's interesting too is that Shazam's a pretty good franchise. Shazam seems to be a pretty good franchise for DC.
I gotta agree with Juggalo on there in the comments in one of the comments. Hey, Roman Reigns' brother, the fucking dude almost looked like a mirror image of Roman.
And I thought, if I was to cast Aquaman myself, and I think that Jason Momoa, I like the Aquaman series. I do. I liked it. It isn't bad, horrible casting. However, I thought that like Chris Hemsworth,
lead.
Chris Hemsworth's brother,
Liam?
Liam
Liam
Hemsworth. That's probably who I would have cast myself if I was to cast it.
I could have gotten behind that.
So if you guys were to cast the new Green Lantern, who would you cast as the Green Lantern? Because there's the white Green Lantern, there's the black guy.
I'd do Hal Jordan, so the black guy, because arguably that's probably one of the best iterations of Green Lantern. And as it goes for actor, I don't know, because you can't go with a younger guy. You got to go with a guy that's in his mid-late 30s, if not to his 40s. So you've almost got to go, and you can't do Idris anymore. You can't do the guy that played Heimdall because now he's been one of the bad guys from Suicide Squad. So you're pretty much limiting who you can go, and you got to try to find a nobody to turn into the next kind of A-lister.
So you're talking about Jon Stewart then, not Hal Jordan.
Yes, sorry. Jon Stewart, not Hal. I'm sorry. Thank you, Prodigal.
I'm trying to think too, because now you got me struggling on who you could probably cast as Jon Stewart. Man, I would ultimately love to see back in the days somebody like Denzel play that role. But
10 years ago, Denzel would have, I think, been perfect for it. Even 10, 15 years ago, maybe, because he's what now, mid-late 50s?
Yeah, he's probably somewhere on that area, because he's like one of my favorite actors whenever I was young. And
he's a phenomenal actor, Denzel is. And again, the only real up-and-comers that you see too much of now, you can't go with Chadwick because, A, he was T'Challa, B, the obvious reason. The late, great Chadwick Boseman. I mean, you could go with the guy that played M'Baku. He might be able to pull it off, but he's still fairly young.
Well, the thing about Michael B. Jordan is you can't really cast him because
He's too young. He's too young to play.
He's too young.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the only other one that's really got any kind of comic backlash or not history.
I know this name might not be popular, but I know that for a while there he was campaigning to be the new Green Lantern. But Tyrese Gibson fits the
I could get behind Tyrese.
fits the age limit of what we're looking for as far as
Fits the body style.
fits the body style. He's got the charisma
Mm-hmm.
to do it. So I feel like that could be a really good choice there. And plus, that's he's one of the main reasons why I still watch the Fast and the Furious movies. It's like him and Ludacris together are the only two reasons why I still watch it. Because they're together.
I had thought about saying Luda, but Luda doesn't have the height. He doesn't have the.
Yeah, I wouldn't even know who to begin to cast in that role. I'd have to go back and think about it in my repertoire of who I'd like to see. But like I said, since they like a lot of the issues go with a lot of these, particularly in black characters, is that since they rush a lot of these products out, and just rush a lot of movies and with the BLM stuff and with the bad writing, doesn't mean that they're bad actors. Kind of like Michael B. Jordan, probably not a bad actor, but he gets some really, really bad roles. So it's hard to gauge. And I think that's where I run into a lot of the walls is it's hard to gauge because Jon Stewart's one of those reserved, well thought out characters. He's usually one of the more respected, and you want to do right by it. So you just don't want to have it be, rushing this and say, well, we'll just go ahead and do this because you got to be like, say Kevin Hart, right? Let's say you do it just as, oh, well, it's going to sell some and you miscast it. It's going to make it worse. We see this happen time and time again.
I wonder. I'm sorry, I completely would just think the guy that played Rhodey from the first Iron Man movie.
Don Cheadle.
No, not Don Cheadle. Terrence Howard.
Terrence Howard.
I think he could probably pull off a Jon Stewart. He's got that. He's got the facial structure already. He keeps his hair pretty much the same way that he does. Don Cheadle would be too old, unfortunately, at this point in his life. But he would have been another one 10 years ago, 15 years ago that would have been a good contention.
I think if Will Smith didn't play Deadshot, Will Smith might have been a.
Okay, I'm going to go out on a roll, and this is going to be a little bit different, but I'm a fan of this guy personally, and I don't know if he would match y'all's criteria. But since, they're not doing the Spawn thing right now, what about
Michael J. White?
Michael J. White. Yeah.
I could really get behind Michael J. White. Especially if they're not going to do anything new with the new Spawn or rebooting Spawn and trying to keep it more.
Well, speaking of Juggalo Gamer, he said, I keep hearing they want Jamie Foxx to play the new Spawn.
No disrespect to Jamie, but stay the fuck away from Spawn, Jamie. Like, he was great. To me, he was great as Electro, but he, to me, is more of a comedy actor versus real serious, like, superhero or even supervillain.
Well, I don't know. He's done like movies like The Solo List, and
he can do other roles besides comedy, but I don't see him really as an action star. Is where I was trying to go with that.
You can always cast Tom Cruise to play the Black Green Lantern. I mean, I'm just throwing it out there.
What?
That's funny. No, but
fuck it. Why not just make a parody of it? Get Robert Downey Jr. You play the dude to play a dude that plays another dude.
Yeah, that'd work.
At least then, if you have them use that line again, nobody's gonna get pissed off and claim racism because they know they're making a satire of it.
Speaking of that character, apparently Robert Downey Jr. said that they're going to be doing a spin-off of his character from Tropic Thunder. So, be kind of interesting to see what happens with him just by himself.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure that it'll still have the others in there too.
Fuck. Man, I don't want to be near Remington while he farts near the gym.
Not at the gym, man.
But,
Should probably be the best place because we're all never mind.
now Remington said something about he's surprised there's not a Batman Beyond. Actually, there is. That's one of the reasons why they hired Michael Keaton.
I was gonna say Keaton would be at this point now. Keaton would be a perfect Bruce Wayne for Batman Beyond.
Yeah, that's one of the main reasons why they were talking about it. Now, what's interesting is that they're bringing Ben Affleck to be Batman and Aquaman too. So there's really no telling what his role is exactly, because they said that his role was supposed to be the end of his role in the Flash. But honestly, I've been wanting to see a Ben Affleck solo Batman film. From what I heard, they were going to do with Deathstroke and everything. I was like, I kind of want to see it, just to be like, okay, let's see it. Let's see what he can do. It will probably be a lot better than what we saw before. But I mean,
see, the problem is though is I know I might be in the low end of this one, but I don't really want to see anything with Deathstroke in it. Don't get me wrong. I know that one of my favorite comic characters, movie characters, Deadpool, is a complete ripoff, and they make that known. But just some of the shit, and I know that there's other comic characters like Hank Pym that are just as bad. But just some of the shit that the guy's done in the comics is like, I don't want to see him I don't want to see. No, I don't even want him in a fucking comic universe anymore. There's no redemption from that. They have a comic series where he basically is a pedophile. I don't want that in a fucking movie. I don't want Hank Pym necessarily of mainstream in a movie either for a rapist wife beater.
I think that, like with Deathstroke, the issue that I have personally, and like I said, the comics, they go off on the rails. So, this is why I'm not into the purchasing the comics like I am. I have a bunch of older stuff, but the newer stuff, they take too much liberty. And so, I can normally dismiss that. However, whenever you're talking about the casting of Deathstroke, you're looking at the same, you're running into the same issue that we just had with Jon Stewart, Green Lantern. Who are you going to get to play Deathstroke? Because it's got to be somebody who's...
Well, this one's got to be an older white dude now, too.
Well, it was supposed to be that guy that was in Magic Mike. I forgot what his fucking name is exactly off the top of my head, but he was in the movie with Arnold Schwarzenegger as well, and he did do Deathstroke at the end.
That's a very, very broad statement when you say the one with Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Let me see what his name is.
The dude that I would think would be a perfect, if you're actually going to play that, is also the dude from, what is it, Don't Speak?
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking of, Stephen Lang.
Yes, thank you, Stephen. I was drawing a blank on his name. Stephen Lang, I think, would be perfect. But at the same time, I was also saying this would have been the same dude that would have been perfect to play Cable, and Josh Brolin actually, I think, kind of knocked it out of the park.
It was what was his name, honey? Joe Manetta. That's the guy they were talking about having played Deathstroke.
Joe Manganiello.
Yeah, Joe Manganiello. He played a little bit of Deathstroke at the end of Justice League.
I can't pronounce.
Yeah, they brought him in as like a cameo appearance, and I know who you're talking about.
Yeah,
but I don't know how well he would do. He seemed interesting, so I'd have to see a little bit more test pilots. Yeah. But like I have to agree with PK is that the first person that I thought of to play Deathstroke was Stephen Lang, myself. And, you watch Stephen Lang in Gods and Generals, and you see him perform as Stonewall Jackson. Yeah. So he's got that military bearing. He's got that military persona.
He played the fucking, like, colonel or whatever dude in fucking Avatar, too, that dies in the end.
Yeah, and
he's got the history with military-themed characters.
And then you go ahead and look at him in Tombstone. And, his portrayal there. So, he's got a lot of brain.
It's so long since I've seen that.
That's one of my favorite movies of all time, is Tombstone. So, yeah, I know how Stephen Lang's character is. And that, yeah, he's got a long range. And I actually would prefer Stephen Lang as well. So, I mean, that would be a good thing for Deathstroke, is to have a guy like that. Now, I have to ask you guys, I'm going to ask Mel this too. I'm going to start with Mel here to put her on the hot seat. Who do you think has been the best Joker you've seen so far? And she hates this question.
I don't like that word, the best, because everybody has their own, unique style and do it. But my personal favorite was actually Joaquin Phoenix. I really liked how he did a spin on it. But Heath Ledger did it really well. I really like Jack Nicholson as well too. But I just like the psychological aspect of the Joker that Joaquin Phoenix did, put on it. So I can't say who was the best one because a lot of people are going to say Jack Nicholson, which is fine, and some people will say Heath Ledger, which is also fine. And I like both of them as well. So I personally, there were a few.
Caesar.
Caesar Romero.
But
you get past the
with the exception of Joaquin, whose movie I absolutely refuse to watch because you literally gave a backstory to a character with no backstory and made a movie about it, which is fucking stupid in my opinion. Kind of like the Jack Napier thing that pissed me off too for that Batman. I liked Caesar's because it was yes, I understand that Batman was the campiest shit 1960s, but each iteration, each person who has played the Joker, has made it through one of the different eras of literally the comics. What the different age you have: the Silver Age, the Golden Age, the Modern Age. I mean, you have just the different personalities. In the 1930s, 1940s, you had the comical Joker that wasn't the just brutal murdering psychopath. He basically was just, I'm gonna fuck with Batman, I'm gonna fuck with his head, but I'm not gonna kill anybody really. But at the same time, he would. Best voice, though, I will say, I'm sorry, I kind of stole the hot seat here. The best voice I will say for Joker, to me, will always be Mark Hamill. That honestly, that is the first thing I think of when I hear Joker, is Mark, and then the second one that my mind goes to is Jack Nicholson. My hot take, and this one is going to catch all kinds of hell with fans and anything, it caught hell on TikTok. I think The Dark Knight's overrated. I think Heath Ledger's performance was overrated. I think the only reason that movie got as popular as it was is because we knew that Heath died. If Heath didn't die while making that movie would be no different than The Batman Begins, where people were just like, yeah, it was all right. But there was no real big memorable moment of getting anything really popped for it. But that's my hot take.
Okay.
What about you, Prodigal? You got
It's definitely Heath Ledger. I have to disagree with PK. Heath Ledger, to me, gave a different aspect. I wasn't big on the Joaquin thing because, to me personally, he wasn't even really playing the Joker. He was just playing past characters of Robert De Niro. Whenever you take in consideration that the Joker movie was basically just stolen off of Taxi. That's why you see a lot of taxis in the Joker. Taxi and the Kings of Comedy. So it was, more of a tribute to, Martin Scorsese. And, it's just not my typical type of comic book movies. The Joker, I watched it in theaters, but it just wasn't my type of comic book movie. And it wasn't personally my favorite Joker. I think that Ledger kind of took the Joker and he did something unique with it. So, like, you had the Cesar Ruiz Joker who was always playing gags, jokes. It was a really fun Joker. Then you had Jack Nicholson's Joker, which was more serious, more of a gangster style type of dark type of Joker, which was also in its own right. Both are genius. With the Ledger, he was more of the anarchist, and I actually like the concept of you can never tell what the Joker is going to do. I meant, it was totally unpredictable, the way that they drew that character up, and Heath Ledger's performance with that, to me personally, was just brilliant. And this is, like I said, with The Dark Knight, I didn't too much care for the, other two in the series, but that one stuck out particularly for me, just because, it was every time the Joker was doing something, it was something different. Everything caught you off of guard. You couldn't predict. He was unpredictable. And I think personally, as far as a character, that was one of the really good selling aspects, not just short of Heath Ledger's delivery for the character, and as much effort as he put into it. Personally, to me, that's just the best Joker that there is to me personally.
I guess I have to go. The best voice Joker, I agree with PK, Mark Hamill. When you watch the Batman animated series, you play the Batman video games, you hear that voice. Mark Hamill does a really good job with it. And, Kevin Conrad does a good voice as Batman, too. But to me, I grew up watching the campy Joker, but I like Cesar Romero. The fact that he comes in there a little bit, even though he's got the mustache showing right here.
And the fact that he refused to shave that stash, too.
I'm sorry.
But
to me, that's what helps add to the campiness of it, though, Mel, is like...
I just couldn't get past it. Sorry.
You can't take it serious, but at the same time, you can't. Because at the same time, with that aspect, no disrespect to Jim Carrey, but my favorite Riddler is going to be Frank, because that man did great as Riddler, and then he did a bunch of other voiceover stuff that just goes to showcase just how well of an actor that man was too.
And that Riddler was just too
hyped
up for me.
The best Joker for me, honestly, is still Jack Nicholson, and the reason why I like Jack is Jack was suave in that movie, but he was also very psychotic.
Mm-hmm. He was a mix of Caesar and Heath in my eyes.
Yes, and Heath Ledger. One thing about him that I did like about his performance with the Joker was the fact there was no background about him. All it was at the end of Batman Begins, there was a card with a Joker, and he says, "I'll look into it." There was no background on why he was doing what he was doing.
See, that part about it I love. And I mean, I'm like the biggest anti-Batman fan there is. The only Batman that I really gave a shit about is I'm halfway through the series right now of the Batman Who Laughs, and I'm actually fucking digging that as a comic series.
Yeah, that one was a good one. I went through that one, and I was like, yeah, that one's kind of decent. And you haven't made it through the end, have you?
No, I'm about halfway through it, so please don't.
Yeah, I'm not gonna
don't spoil anything for me, because I'm hooked into this shit. Normally, I can't stand the Bat.
Yeah, that's me. Well, I don't. It's not that it's a love-hate relationship with Batman, but me being a Superman fan, Kev's a Batman fan, and so
here's something for you guys.
Background on the panel: they eat cat food.
See, and unfortunately, though, I mean, with it's not even necessarily the Batman character. It's a lot of the fans. It's with prep time. With prep time. With prep time. Look, with prep time, he beat Steve Rogers. No, because if Batman's getting prep time, so are these other motherfuckers. Yeah, he may have a contingency plan for everybody in the Justice League, but if you catch Batman on the wrong fucking day, if you've got more than one of you, guess what? If you've got Lantern and Superman, and they're like, yeah, we're going to just take Batman out, Batman ain't fucking beating both of them.
I can honestly say, as a Batman fan, I can honestly say this live on here. Batman is the reason why a lot of people don't like Batman is because Batman is really shoved down people's throats a lot. And
he's probably got one of the biggest plot armors I have ever seen for comic series too. Not even Superman, the Man of Steel. The Lex will sometimes get a leg up on him for a little bit. It seems like every comic series besides the one I'm reading, Batman manages to come out ahead at the end before the comic's even over. And
that's probably why you like the Batman Who Laughs, is because
he's not winning right now, but he's trying. At the same time, he's trying to do everything he can to come out ahead, but he's not coming out ahead at this point in time. So it's what's kind of got me hooked. Like, all right, where's this gonna go?
And see that's another thing right there. And this is the issue that we're running into, particularly with Star Wars and whenever they cast female characters too, is because, like PK said, whenever you watch a Superman movie, even back in the 80s with the Christopher Reeve Superman, Superman had to overcome something. You know, he had to overcome kryptonite. You know, he almost died. You know, it took Miss Taskmaster to save him. And then he had to overcome, you know, the three Kryptonians. And then, you know, finding his human. And then in part 3, he had to overcome, like, personal conflicts. And even in part 4, he got sick. So they always try to make Superman where he had to overcome something. And I see this a lot with, like, female characters. They
make him more of like he's an actual human instead of the literal solar powered battery badass that he actually is.
Right. And so like when they cast people like in the Star Wars episodes like Ren or is that her name, Ren or Ray? Whatever her name is.
Yeah, Ray.
Yeah.
Ray,
Yeah, where basically these females come in, and this is bad because if you're a female actress right now and you're trying to make a name for yourself, and all of these roles are OP'd, this is, I think, what hurts a lot of the characters and character development and proceeding forward with this stuff. And so, yeah, I meant, you know, there's nothing wrong with having a bit of vulnerability, particularly in a movie. And so, like, I think that PK hits that right on the head. That's one of the issues that a lot of people have with Batman is that they OP him too much, and they don't give enough respect to other fans of other people.
Now, the one thing I do like about Dark Knight Rises, and I know it's not the best of the Batman that Christian Bale did, but I like the vulnerability they did with breaking the bat. They had him.
But at the same time, that is another comic series that you can kind of get behind. But they took a slight variation because you're not going to find really a dude that's going to look like how Bane did in the comics and literally just break the bat. But I think Tom Hardy, for what it's worth, did pretty fucking good as Bane, and he made it seem more believable. And he didn't. He brought out, unfortunately, because in Batman and Robin, when you had Bane, you had the look, but you didn't have the actual Bane is more than just the hulking luchador, the like rip-off Hulk luchador. The man was a brilliant, strategic individual. He wasn't just a berserker like a Viking. So they took that part of Bane and made that the dominant part and made it to where he was just slightly stronger than average.
See, now Mel didn't get to read the comics that we did when the Bane broke the bat. So when we went to the theater and saw that, it really emotionally hit her when she saw him.
I didn't even read that one. I mean, I knew it happened, but I never read that comic.
And it kind of emotionally kind of like affected her a little bit because she's like, "Wow, I've never seen this happen before." And it's like,
honestly, I don't think that was the part that really affected me. It was just watching Bane just sit there and just like hammer fist, and then you watch that part of the cowl just kind of just like sink in, like, damn, he just broke his fucking orbital.
Broke his back.
No.
Yeah, I probably got the comic somewhere.
Mask.
I could probably go and get it right down the street from. I've got a comic shop. I know once if Aaron actually does jump in here, he'll know where I'm talking about. I've got a place called Top Cut Comics, literally 2-minute walk down from my house, and that is my home away from home.
Yeah, we have a comic store right down the road from us too that we can go to and everything. But I have to ask you guys this though.
I will be right back. Nature's calling.
All right.
Okay.
Well, I was going to ask you this though, Poston. There's actually, did you ever follow the YouTube channel Super Power Beatdown?
I don't think I followed that one. Like most of the stuff that I, especially back in the early days of YouTube, whenever it was still new, Bat in the Sun. And in fact, like I said, you know, I've had Bat in the Sun reach out to me before on my original Sean Polston account. That was my original account that was flagged down. And doing the parody stuff. And then Bat in the Sun, and then there was another one that I was sub to. And I can't, but both of them were Machinima properties.
Bat in the Sun that does the Superpower Beatdowns now, they're looking to make a Batman versus the horror characters, like versus like the world's greatest detective versus Jigsaw, and or Batman versus Michael Myers and things of that nature. And I'm kind of curious about how that would play out because to me, honestly, when I see about the Jigsaw and I think, well, the world's greatest detective versus a great mind like Jigsaw, that could possibly work.
I think that's what they tried to do in the Batman movie. They just kind of failed at doing it. And that's just because they put too much effort on subplots. You know what I'm saying? The Batman movie, I probably would have liked it if they would have kept it about the Riddler and then made the Riddler exactly what you're saying, a Jigsaw type character. And then, have a great reveal. But it just, to me, that looks like what they wanted to do with it, and they just kind of went away with that. They were trying to implement too much other stuff into it, which, of course, makes it 3 hours, and that's one of the reasons why I didn't like the movie. But with that being said, what you're saying with, like, Batman versus Jigsaw would be great. You're absolutely 110% right. And, like I said, that's a character that fits Batman. I don't think that would necessarily work with like Michael Myers and Jason because that's an entirely different, I just don't think it would work very well together. Now, I was a fan of him versus Predator. I was a fan of that comic book, but that's only because the Predator was this alien with advanced technology, so the genres matched up. You know what I'm saying?
If I could ever find it for you, Poston, someone did a short film, and we found this at a convention years ago. You remember me seeing that one about Batman versus Predator? Someone did an independent film of that. Yeah, and it had Alien in it too, but it was really cool seeing Batman and Predator go at it on the short film, and it was really, really, really well done. And you're right, their little styles match with each other. But I think if they were to do a Batman spinoff with like the Jigsaw, that would be interesting to see because it'd be like, okay, what can the world's greatest detective do that the cops can't do against Jigsaw?
See, a character like Deadpool would match up better with like Michael Myers and Jason because ultimately Michael Myers and Jason can kill Deadpool over and over until Deadpool finally defeats them or finds a way to defeat them. And it could just be various ways of how they killed Deadpool this time. And I think that would match up well. But with like Batman and everything like that, because it's not like Michael Myers is this great, he's just kill. I just see something, I kill. So I mean, there's no mystery to him. And like I said, it wouldn't take that long for Batman to go ahead and break out one of them guns that he has and reduce freaking Michael Myers to absolutely nothing until he comes back in another form or whatever it is. So I mean, it just... there would be a lack of storytelling there, but there'd be a lot more dialogue and a lot more storytelling with a guy like Jigsaw or for Predator.
I went back and watched a few little movies with Scott Adkins, and I remember him being in Expendables 2. Yeah, he would have been a perfect Batman. Perfect. I'm telling you.
I heard all of that. I want to go on record saying I do like the idea of Batman versus Jigsaw. However, you will never see Batman versus Alien or Batman versus Predator ever again. I don't know if too many people know this, but if you actually go and you pick up any newer Alien or Predator comic series, it's got Marvel's logo on it now.
And it's hard to tell, though. I mean, you say that right now, but in hindsight, in about another 5 or 6 years, if Marvel's like, oh, well, we need to sell off some property, that's exactly what happened with Fox and exactly how that happened. So, I mean, it's hard to say that you would never see it again. And especially as bad as Marvel's doing right now in their MCU, like...
Sorry to cut you off here, Prodigal, but that's exactly what I'm talking about. There's a new Alien series, the newest run for... Predators, so it's something that took me by surprise. So I was like, "Oh, well, son of a bitch."
Well, it's kind of the same thing back in the day. Like when you look at the old Transformer cartoon comic, they used to be sponsored by Marvel and their own comics. So I mean,
well, because once upon a time, Alien and Predator were owned by Dark Horse, which was like a subsidiary I believe, or like a sister company to DC. So when I started seeing that come across, and I'm like, wait a second, why the fuck's this got a Marvel logo? And then in my comic shop, I was seeing all this stuff that was Dark Horse is now just, it's gone, disappeared. Like Dark Horse is no more. So
I don't know if y'all ever heard the rumor, but there was a never say never comment recently saying, "Will DC ever cross over with Marvel on in the movies?" And apparently, there has been talks about it.
It'll never happen.
I think that there's potential, especially with the way that both, like you're looking at the MCU right now, and you look at the She-Hulk thing. This is another perfect example of currently the suits at Disney. And I don't even know how long Disney's going to be able to keep Marvel because we see what they've done with the properties that they've had. But you look at the stuff with like She-Hulk, and, I get it. They want to make it like Six in the City and have it catered towards female audiences. The only problem is that female audiences, and this is just the wigs in the upper echelon not understanding their target audience, is that if females want to watch Sex in the City, they're going to get HBO and they're going to watch that programming because it's specifically made for them.
Yeah.
There is a female market for comic books, but it's not enough to sustain a genre. So whenever, and this is the issue that we're seeing right now with the Disney's variant of the MCU, is that they're like, oh, well, we're sorry, incels, but this isn't meant for you. And you keep on attacking your target audience like that, and then they're going to stop supporting your stuff. So, this is why I'm saying that in all aspects, anything owned by Marvel right now, and with their marketing as horrible as it is, and people are starting to lose interest, then, eventually it's the same thing with like your CNN pluses and stuff like that. They've kind of cornered themselves by alienating everybody, that it's kind of hard to go ahead and generate that revenue. So I mean, like I said, they could be owned by Marvel. Like I said, DC's struggling right now because they have no identity. Yeah. There's potential there for them to say, well, what's our next $1 billion project to go ahead and, facilitate all these large contracts and movies, and we're trying to make all these movies. We need some. That's why. That's why DC is kind of like gutting their whole process, because they want that to generate a lot of their other films and whatnot. So, I mean, if they feel like it's in their best interest, I can see them kind of doing it.
Let me ask you guys this, and I'm going to start with you, PK.
But hold on before we go on to that. The question is, though, with that one, No Prodigal, do we have it where it's a team up, or do we have it where it's MCU versus DC? Like the comic crossovers were, but then you let the fans decide how it goes, and you get shit that in reality you'd never see. Like in reality, they had it. I think it was Batman beat Captain America, but chances are they'd end up fighting together. They wouldn't fight against each other. I think they had Hulk losing to somebody too, which Thor probably would have gotten along really well, if not outright respected Wonder Woman. I mean, you can't really pit these two teams of the Avengers and against the Justice League. You'd almost have to bring Thanos and Darkseid and put them together as a team and say, here you go, fucking somehow these guys all managed to get into the same universe. Now we need all of you to go stop them.
Well, see, they had the crossover before. And like Thor fought Shazam, Batman fought Wolverine. I think that's who he fought. Yeah, he fought Wolverine.
They let the fans, they let us decide who the winners and losers were of these fights. So obviously, that's where you get everybody going with with prep time Batman. Well, because when you let the fans choose who's going to win.
But see, that's the thing is like now. You look at Avengers, right? When they brought in Avengers, then you have the little conflict where Iron Man was fighting Thor. Then eventually you let in, so you can have like where they verse each other, not knowing each other, being skeptical, being ignorant because they're in two different universes, to where they have to work together for some cosmic event. That was more of a fan service thing that they were doing for both promotions because the comic book and the whole reason why they did that is because the comic book industry was struggling at the time. So they
Yeah.
need something to go ahead and bring in revenue and to bring in interest. And they figured, well, the crossovers are the only answer that we have. And so I think that, if done right, I think that both sides would definitely have their wins, have their moments, and then have their losses and whatnot. But ultimately, you'd have to get them to work together at some point in time.
Yeah.
And like I said, it's one of those things to where is because after Endgame, Spider-Man did great, but
He's
these
the only one.
right, yeah, both sides are kind of failing to meet the expectations, particularly whenever you look at inflation. They're not really being able. So, first off, the issue that why you're not going to get it soon is because DC just hasn't developed their characters yet. Marvel's having issues developing their characters. So right now, what are you going to do? Have Wonder Woman face Wanda Maximoff? I meant Gal Gadot's great, but it's not going to be enough to be. It's like wow, but
No. You'd almost have to have like Wonder Woman versus this iteration of Captain Marvel to make it even half-assed interesting, and nobody really. As much as people don't hate on it, and people really don't want to see Brie Larson just because, and it's not even because of what she did for the character, is just the actress herself kind of just rubbed people the wrong way. Just with how the cockiness that she brought to everything, and just, could Captain Marvel could do this, this, and this, and this, and the Captain Marvel movie hadn't even come out yet. So.
You know what's interesting is I actually look at what kind of crossovers they could do with that, and to be honest with you, like you guys are saying, there's really no other way. Now, when you look at what Endgame's done, Spider-Man did really good. I mean, Doctor Strange Multi-Madness wasn't too bad.
I liked it because but at the same time, this part of that sucked. Is unfortunately since MCU didn't have access to the actual story for Wanda and her brother, you had to pretty much rewrite the entire character, which they ended up retconning into the comics then too. So now they are no longer Magneto's kids. They're not mutants. Well, there goes 30, 40 years of a character in the blink of an eye because you couldn't wait to introduce a character or try to find a different one for Ultron, who itself they kind of butchered as a character and a villain for Age of Ultron.
Well, I remember me and Particle had a conversation about this. The one thing that's really lacking right now with Marvel is Chris Evans and Robert Downey Jr. were their two stepping stones.
Yeah.
And, Hemsworth's there still, and I give Chris Hemsworth a lot of credit for still being there, doing what he's got to do. But Marvel needs a shot in the arm. I don't know if the third Guardians will be that shot in the arm, or maybe Deadpool will be the shot in the arm Marvel needs. I don't know.
I don't think Guardians is going to do it because this is the end of it. This is the end of Guardians. Dave's done. James Gunn is done.
Chris Pratt's done after this.
I mean, that one they hadn't confirmed or denied yet. But yeah, for the most part, the team is done. I think Bradley Cooper's done too. As Rocket, but
I think the problem with Marvel is that it's a really good thing that they got the deal with Fox, but from what I'm hearing, they cannot use any of their new members. They can't cast anybody new for X-Men until 2025 or 26. So they have to. So with the Fox property, they have to bring back guys like Patrick Stewart and Hugh Jackman and all these guys, because you can't recast new people that you want. And I think Marvel's waiting to cast all these new members that they want as the X-Men. And I'm sitting there thinking, if you got Hugh Jackman, he's deciding to come back to do this thing with Ryan Reynolds, and he's always wanted to work with Marvel. Now you have a stepping stone.
Yeah.
And Hugh
Hell, you could bring in you could bring it because I think James Marsden I don't think is too old to where he could continue to play Cyclops for a while. You could bring him in instead of bringing in. I'm not even going to attempt to butcher her name, but the gal that played Jean Grey, maybe leave her out. Maybe bring in Halle Berry because she doesn't look like she's aged.
Mm-hmm.
Because for God's sake, black don't seem to fucking crack until you hit like 80 years old. I mean, tell me I'm wrong. Fuck, look at Denzel. Look at fucking Samuel L. Jackson. These guys don't look their ages.
He's not wrong.
No, he's not wrong.
I mean, hell, I'm in my mid-30s and I've got more gray than either one of those two combined. Whether they dye their hair or not is a whole different ballgame. But I mean, I look older than I am. They still look younger than they are.
The movie that's coming out that could possibly change Marvel for the better is the one where they're going to be doing the whole. I think it's one of the last Avengers films they're talking about doing in 2024 or 5, and that's the
Secret Wars.
Secret Wars, and I think
isn't that supposed to take place in between Civil War and Infinity War?
It was supposed to be. If they would have had. Now, honestly, I don't know how you and Prodigal Hill feels about this. I think they should have waited to do the end game in Infinity War until they got all the properties that they got.
Because you could have done the Thunderbolts, you could have done Secret Wars, you could have continued to build up Infinity War and Endgame. Now, would you have made $1 billion on Endgame? Also, because you had to fucking re-release it. You had to release it twice to do it, but you did it. Which just goes to show, you want to make $1 billion movie, put Zoe Saldana in some kind of face paint. And you'll make $1 billion. Avatar, Endgame.
Or, yep.
But, yeah, I mean, you're right, Kev. You could have introduced so many other characters that would have probably been. You could have introduced Adam Warlock, and you could have made it more of a comic-esque run for Infinity War and Endgame. Because in the comic series, Adam Warlock was instrumental in stopping Thanos. So maybe you have him teased instead of Captain Marvel at the end of fucking Infinity War, and then have him brought in for Endgame.
Let me ask you this, Poston. I'm gonna ask you this one. Do you think Ryan Reynolds being in Deadpool 3 and with Hugh Jackman being on there, do you think that might be the shot in the arm that Marvel needs?
I'm glad, because everybody's wanted to see Deadpool and Wolverine team up. Hugh Jackman. Ever since the first one, whenever you had Wolverine Origins, and it was decent. I liked it, okay, but everybody wants to see this Deadpool team up with Wolverine. I think that this is going to be one of their big draws. Anything with Deadpool in it is going to be a draw.
Even if you have it to where it's like that reluctant team up, kind of like it was with Cable and Deadpool, where you have them kind of duking it out for half the movie and then going, "Oh shit, here's the bigger problem. All right, let's shake hands and we'll deal with this in another time." Like the comics were for Cable and Deadpool, ironically enough, and followed the movie.
Some people are wondering though how they're going to do this. Now, will they bring Hugh Jackman's Wolverine from a multiverse into where Deadpool's at? Because we all saw Logan and we all know he died in that one. So are they going to bring in a Wolverine from a different multiverse, bring him in with this Deadpool and be that way? Or will they actually have Deadpool do something where he brings Wolverine back to life or something like that?
The great thing about like Deadpool for Marvel, I don't know if you can do exactly with Deadpool what you did with Iron Man and build a whole universe around him, because it's just it's too it's not consistent enough. However, with that being said, he can break continuity, so you can use him in a way to where you can put Deadpool into a movie with the Scarlet Witch. And you can put Deadpool. Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt you, Prodigal. He in Deadpool 2, he makes the fucking joke. Then this motherfucker has to go and die in a movie. Well, I'm not going to be outdone by you. And he's got the little statue of Wolverine laying on the fucking tree branch thing dead. So, I mean, I think it would be a classic Deadpool moment, and it would essentially be a breaking the continuity fourth wall. And I think what they should do, and what I hope they do, is they make a joke like, "Didn't you die?" Maybe I'm just thinking of something different. I don't know. Maybe I'm thinking of somebody else.
Yeah, maybe
joke on it, because that's the nice thing about Deadpool is you can make it like a comedy style comic movie, but still make it a comic movie and make it worth seeing.
Well, see, like, it's also like the joke where, he's late and, he's getting, Vanessa's there and he's trying to explain why he's late. And he says, well, I was fighting another super villain and we both found out that he had a mother named Martha too.
Yep.
Taking shots into DCEU. Mm-hmm. He's malleable. You can do a lot with him and you can put him in cameos and it would help a lot other properties that they're trying to get out there and trying to sell. Yeah. You can't build a whole universe like, you did with Tony Stark, but you can use him to go ahead and, for cameos and whatnot. People will just sit there and say, well, Deadpool was in this one, Deadpool was in that one, he's everywhere, yada, yada, yada. And it'll help them. Like I said, he's not stable enough to, be an Avengers type leader like Stark and Captain America was. But he is that guy that you can put in to go ahead and bring in some sort of interest into a movie, like Ant-Man. You're trying to get people to watch Ant-Man. What better way to go ahead and get people interested in it by doing a couple of Deadpool cameos in it?
Yeah. You can even do a Deadpool cameo with Spider-Man as well. And actually, one of the ideas Ryan Reynolds had for Deadpool starting out, this is what he was talking about. What he wanted to do with this Deadpool 3 is, I don't know if they're going to go with this story, but his story he wrote was, what was Deadpool doing during the snap? And they were actually saying that he actually came up with an idea of Deadpool watching the fight happen during Endgame, and he's over there eating popcorn, just watching what's happening, and then he sees Thanos, and Thanos tries to chase after him for a minute or two, and he came up with an idea about what was Deadpool doing during the snap. But I don't think that's the storyline they're going to go with. But that's, but it would be kind of funny if they can kind of tease on that a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that would be, it would be great and stuff like that. He could be sitting there in a Fox studio or something and just watching it on, TV and stuff like that, and then all of a sudden he could sit there and whenever Thanos does the snap, he could just start to sit there and kind of like fade away, like he was one of the ones that disappeared during the snap, and he's just like, what the hell? And then he just, that's good. It'd be cool.
Now, I mean, I ask you guys this part here is that, do you think this is a one-off for Hugh Jackman, or do you think this is a beginning of something to where he had a relationship with Marvel?
One-off.
Well, like I said, it kind of just depends on how they bring him back in. Of course, you have the Old Man Logan, which by far is a lot of people that are even people who don't like comic books love that movie. You know what I'm saying? And so that's one of the ones that kind of breaks. That was kind of like the coup de grace. It's, the Clint Eastwood Unforgiven type movie for Hugh Jackman. So for him to come back in this Deadpool movie, it just depends on how they bring him back in, and are they going to kill him again in this movie? And if so, how's it? Because, Deadpool's a feel-good story usually at the end. That's the one good thing.
Uplift.
Yeah, it's always got the happy uplift that people go to watch these movies for. And normally, if you're going to do a comic book movie, it needs to have the happy uplift in it. So it's one of the reasons why a lot of people like the Deadpool films other than just the satire that he uses. So it kind of just depends. I mean, me personally, and this is a film theory now. This is a film theory, but I like it. I like it because the theory's solid. If it's a one-off for Jackman, right? There's a film theory that said that Cable, from the future, really isn't, Summers. He's actually Logan. This Cable, the one that was in Deadpool 2, is actually Logan, and that's why they have this kind of chemistry about them, because he's actually Wolverine from the future, not Summers. I forget which Summers he is. He's one of the Summers. Well, yeah. But he isn't that. He isn't that character. He's actually Logan, and it makes sense because he acts more like Wolverine. He acts more like Logan than he does actually Cable to me.
That could be an interesting way of bringing them in. Or maybe it's like, or maybe they could do something like you can bring in Brosnan for a minute, and all of a sudden he takes off the mask, and it was always Hugh Jackman with the Wolverine and everything like that, and Deadpool will be like, "Holy shit!
I knew it!
It was you! What?" But can you imagine most of the jokes that Deadpool's going to do with Disney? I mean, it's just going to be.
I hope you're right.
I expect to see some kind of a cameo with the fucking mouse ears.
If they still have the mouse ears, because Disney may lose Mickey Mouse as that copyright's about to expire.
If they lose Mickey, it would be almost a guarantee that it would be in there then. Because Ryan Reynolds would somehow find a way to sneak it in to poke fun that Disney lost its pride and joy.
I hope so. But like I said, whenever you look at the Disney products ever since they've really kind of taken over the MCU, I think they reached their height with Guardians. But then, ever since, particularly in Phase 4, 5, it's been going downhill, and a lot of it has to do with a lot of the people that they put in. So, I'm hoping that he's still able to have these liberties and freedoms in the Deadpool genre.
But it does fall back on like what you said, Prodigal. I mean, and if you think about it, these earlier versions of the characters that essentially built the MCU. They weren't originally Disney. Iron Man started before MCU was owned by Disney. Same with Captain America and Thor. And even the Hulk. I mean, they don't consider Edward Norton's part of the MCU, but I mean, that's the character. I would love to have seen Edward Norton, but from what I had understood and heard stories of is that he was hell to work with behind the scenes.
Yeah, I think that's still the continuity that they're going with, is the Edward Norton continuity, though.
Yeah, because they did make reference to it, and I mean, in She-Hulk, they had Blonsky.
Yep. Because I think that the Edward Norton Incredible Hulk happened at the in between, I forget, I think it was between Captain America. It was during the events of Iron Man 2. I think, was it? Yeah. I know Thor did, but I think that did too somewhere, like a couple of weeks before.
It's all close because I know after it's supposed to take place after Iron Man 2 because Tony knows about the Avengers Initiative. So, because he comes to Ross and he starts talking, well, we're putting together a team, which is what was leading into the first Avengers movie.
Now, they said in this Secret Wars, I don't know if y'all heard about this, but apparently there's supposed to be variants of Robert Downey Jr.'s Iron Man and Chris Evans' Captain America. Mm-hmm. And they're trying to get those two back for that one.
Well, I think they both signed on. I think Chris Evans said he'd come back and he'd do a one-off for Secret Wars. The $1 million question is, though, what do you do for that one at least, what do you do about T'Challa? I mean, because
Yeah.
Black Panther was still a part of it. Now, do you use archive footage? Or do you go with a variant for that one and you pull somebody from a different universe? Or do you just have it be Shuri and you say, okay, I guess we're going to say fuck the storyline? And
Now, I I don't know about, like, the only bad thing is that they used this guy in the multiverse of madness with Doctor Strange. But that guy that's I can't think of the guy's name because I'm not a big Doctor Strange guy. But the guy that was basically feuding with Doctor Strange in the original one. He was, always in competition with Sorcerer Supreme and whatnot.
Mordo.
Yeah, Mordo. Okay. So that guy to me would be a great freaking replacement for Black Panther, for Chadwick Boseman, because if you ever seen him in Serenity, he's pretty capable of playing that role too. But he's already kind of casted in the MCU. And so that was one of my things, is that, man, if they were to...
Andy's a character that they haven't finished a story arc from the first movie with. So,
right.
Because when they teased it, they were going to have the second Doctor Strange. People thought that's who was going to be the bad guy that you'd have to deal with at the end. Not it was going to be Scarlet Witch. And that's actually what when I heard that they were making a second Doctor Strange, I said, "Oh shit, he's going to be fighting with Mordo." Nope, fucking threw a curveball at me even. But that's because I didn't watch WandaVision.
And they changed a lot of things, because I did watch WandaVision. I watched it to the end. The one bad thing about that situation is two things they did in that one. They brought back Quicksilver, but they didn't bring back they didn't bring back Aaron Johnson. They brought Evan Peters.
Yeah, they brought back the kid from Days of Future Past.
Yeah, they brought him back in to play that. But what's interesting though is
that opens up that multiverse part too, since
there's
a universe where he is a mutant, not a science experiment.
So now they also opens up the fact that they were talking about their dad in the movie, in the show too. They were talking about how they don't know about their dad, but then, Quicksilver made a comment about Magneto. So there was a little bit of a thing about Magneto in the show. But at the end of the show, there is a new Vision flying around and no one knows where he's at now. So it's in there thinking, well, you killed Vision in Infinity War, but now you have another Vision running around. So it's kind of like, are we saying that we can just kill these characters and just bring them back anytime we want to? Or this is what we're...
I mean, let's face it, that's what they do for the comics. And in comic, nobody ever stays truly dead. I mean...
Except for Jason Todd, right?
Oh, yeah.
That's always the running gag right there. Nobody stays dead except for Jason Todd.
Pretty much, yeah, unfortunately. Poor Jason.
Now let me ask you
guys. Couldn't catch a break, but he caught a crowbar.
Well, I'll tell you, that's what got me into watching the Titans, is because, one, they had Connor Kent, which is my favorite Superboy, and then they had Jason Todd. So that's whenever I started watching, and I ended up watching it. It's like my guilty pleasure, because I know that technically the Titans is made for a female viewer. Whenever I watch, I say, oh, yes, this is a soap opera. This is definitely made for females. But they have my favorite characters of Connor Kent and, Red Hood, because I like the Red Hood character.
They had Nightwing.
And Nightwing, yeah. That's another character that I like. Well, actually, I like a lot of the characters in Titans, Deathstroke.
I like the story. I didn't like some of the portrayals. Like, don't get me wrong. I know this one is going to catch a lot of hell and a lot of hate. I honestly, and it's not even anything to do with the actress. I hate that they made Starfire a black gal.
I tell you.
And I know like, well, why the fuck, you racist bastard? No, she's an orange fucking alien. At least CG the character to look the fucking part. I don't care if the actress... Everybody was like, "Oh my god!" Because I thought the gal that played Domino was fucking great.
Yeah,
Guess
I
what?
tell you,
He's fucking inverted.
I tell you one of the problems with it, and I don't even necessarily think it's just because she was black, but whenever you first start to watch the show with Starfire, her storyline drags
Yeah.
so long, and it's so, oh, poor me and everything. And if you're trying to watch something, you want it to go at a quicker pace. It drags so long until it took me a while to like her too. Now, I
got
like her.
Like I couldn't. I don't think I got past.
Yeah,
like,
it's
quarter of the
hard.
second season. But like the only thing I keep getting is like I get vibes of literally just your stereotypical New York West Side hooker. It's fucking black girl. It's like that.
I'm gonna tell you.
SVU or Law and Order shows is she's dolled up in the fucking big fur. She's got the hair all done up, black gal, because apparently New York is 90% black people on SVU.
I'm going to tell you right now, her sister is fucking sexy as hell, though. Blackfire? Holy shit. Dude, her fucking sister is sexy. You should check it whenever she goes and gets her sister. Yeah.
I mean, everybody keeps telling me I need to give the show another chance. And
yeah, you have to get past the first season. And I had issues with Raven as well because her storyline was tediously slow.
Yeah, it was. I did notice that too, and that was something that was driving me crazy.
What'd you guys think of that girl that played Supergirl on the TV show, Melissa Bonin or whatever her name is? Or did y'all ever watch the Supergirl show or no?
I didn't.
I didn't either. That's one of the only reason, like I said, the only reason why I watched the Titans is because they had Red Hood. Whenever I saw that it had Red Hood, they had already had like 2 or 3 seasons before I even started watching it. I had to go back and check it out. But the only reason I started watching it was because they were going to bring in Red Hood. And then I was like, shit, they had Connor Kent this whole time. I didn't even know they had Connor Kent. And then they did the thing with Deathstroke. And I'm like, well, hell, I missed half of the series. And they got a lot of the characters that I actually like. And then, but like you said, the storylines with... I not watched the whole thing. I mean, I watched it all the way up. But you're right, man. Those storylines were just tediously slow. But after they finally got past that and they started doing more, stuff where it was more detective, more interesting, more entertainment, I started to like these and appreciate the characters more than I did from the first season. So, yeah, it's one of those ones that if you make it past the first season, then they're really good after that. But you have to get past that first season.
If you guys were to cast the new Ghost Rider, who would you cast first, PK?
It depends. Which version are we going with?
Johnny Blaze.
Johnny Blaze? Honestly, I don't know because this one might catch a lot of flack too. For what it's worth, I don't think Nicolas Cage did a horrible job. I mean, they tried cashing in on a name, but there were parts of the character that could definitely have been polished up. But my first choice would have I wouldn't make one about Johnny Blaze. I would bring the character from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and I would make the main focus of it Robbie Reyes. And I would cast the kid that played Robbie Reyes in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., Punisher. Or not Punisher, Ghost Rider.
What about you, Paulson?
Well, since I've never seen the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., and, ever since I talked to Cabal, and Cabal is a big Ghost Rider fan, he agrees with PK. And so, for me personally, I defer to Cabal and to PK because they're more Ghost Rider fans than I am. But ever since Cabal had told me this, it's like, oh, okay, yeah, that would be badass. And it would be Keanu Reeves. Because they were kicking around the idea he was supposed to come back maybe as Adam Warlock or as Ghost Rider in the MCU. And I said, holy shit, if Keanu Reeves is Ghost Rider, then yeah, I'm going to go watch that movie because I think that, but like I said, Cabal is hell-bent on Nicolas Cage as being his Ghost Rider. So, like I said, it's neither here nor there. I don't know if he can do it right now. He's a little bit older, you know what I'm saying? But, personally, whenever he said that, then I was like, yeah, but I'm a big Keanu Reeves fan anyways. I watched the John Wicks. I'm wanting to see the new Constantine movie. Anything I even watched
I'm
the last
excited
Matrix.
for that shit. That is the one that he has been wanting to do a sequel for years too. So the fact that it was able to finally be greenlit is fucking amazing.
I have to say though, Johnny. The one thing about Nicolas Cage, a lot of people don't know, but he has a Ghost Rider tattoo, and he was a big fan of the Ghost Rider. And I actually liked the first Ghost Rider movie. Believe it or not, I thought it was really
the first one, Spirit of Vengeance, was just trying to cash in again on the name.
Yeah.
The first one, I think, was a half-ass decent, and they hit the story. They actually hit the story for how Johnny became the writer. Right, he sold his soul to try to save somebody, and all he did was he got fucking stabbed in the back.
How about this for an idea? Because y'all are Ghost Rider fans, and you're talking about the kid from Shield, Reyes kid that you were talking about. How about you do kind of like a tweener movie where Nicolas Cage comes back, but he's no longer cursed, and the curse has been passed on, and he has to help, pretty much kind of like what Sam Elliott's character was.
As like a mentor?
Right, yeah, something like that. Do you think that could work?
I think that could work out really well. And then what you could do, honestly, is I'd like to see them also possibly throw in a teaser, throw in Thomas Jane as Frank Castle as a cameo, because then if you ever decided you wanted to go with something and try to make like a cosmic Punisher or cosmic Ghost Rider, which is the Punisher with the Spirit of Vengeance, if it's not too far off, you might be able, because I like that version of the Punisher better than the second version. Or you get the guy that played him from the series, which I particularly didn't care for, and I like the Punisher too. But
I do like the Ray Stevens Punisher pretty good. I like the Thomas Jane Punisher, but that's because Punisher has always been appealing to me.
Yeah.
But I like the Ray Stevens Punisher only because you couldn't never expect. He just didn't care. He's just gonna, he's just a man of little words. He was gonna shoot first, shoot second, shoot later, and then ask a question now and then. That's kind of like what I liked about it. Thomas Jane's was good though. I agree that Thomas Jane coming back as a Punisher, that would be pretty solid.
I'm going to ask you this one, Prodigal. Since you are I know you were a fan of The Rock in the Attitude Era. Do you think that Dwayne Johnson is going to hurt or help DC as Black Adam?
Now, I'm glad you touched on this because I was on Twitter, and some of the people that are following, I follow Yellow Flash and various other people that are in the comic book. No, they say that Black Adam tested lower than Batgirl. It would target audiences. So, with that being said, do I think that there's still value in Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson? I do. Do I think that the wokeism that they've been trying to hit Dwayne is going to hurt him in the long run? If he keeps on doing it, then yes, I absolutely do. If Dwayne can do the stuff that made him Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, know your role, shut your mouth, The Rock, the Rudy Fu Candy ass, stuff like that, and still be that character, in these movies and whatnot, because that's what people really want to see. They want to see is, action. They want to see is, incorporating wokeism into anything is gonna hurt somebody. It's gonna hurt their property. It's gonna hurt everything. Yeah. And like I said, I don't know because I haven't seen. I still kind of really want to see Black Adam myself. Guilty pleasure. I know that but is it going to be enough for the people at large right now, particularly with the position that right now the DCEU is in? I don't know if he's going to have that name recognition, and this is just partly because he's killed a lot. His target audience was wrestling fans, and this is what happens whenever you dedicate yourself. This is what CM Punk is finding out. This is what Eddie Kingston, who I absolutely love Eddie Kingston, but is finding out, is whenever you hit your, to any of these, what I consider plot devices, these ridiculous causes and stuff, you're basically already alienating probably a majority of your audience that's, already sees it as superficial. Anyways, you got people that are, it's going to offend a lot of people, but even if you're not offending other people, people are going to see it as superficial. So it's both, it's that double-edged sword. You may think that you're looking like some sort of social justice warrior and fighting for causes and stuff, but these causes were fought. And myself, I know this because I'm a little bit older, but a lot of these causes and a lot of these issues were fought years ago. And basically, you have these people that are kind of thumbing their noses of people who didn't judge people because of the color of their skin, or people who didn't judge people based on their sexual, discretions or whatnot, or who didn't, judge people based on their gender. It says you can do it if you, put your mind to it. And whenever they come out with these superficial causes, you're basically saying, well, all of those, whether, you making friends with all of these other people, they don't count anymore, because we're going to go ahead and we're going to wear this shirt because we market off of these issues, and we're going to go ahead and make this a hot button issue whenever it's not. And I think that The Rock has kind of fell into that trap. It's going to be kind of hard to market on it because, like I said, you're alienating so many people who've put in so much time, so much effort to go ahead and, try to come together and not judge people. And you're saying that it's all becoming identity politics. This is why this doesn't work, and this is why you get woke and go broke, is because you alienate so many people.
I was gonna say my problem with him being the Black Adam, and from what I read, he changed the entire character to where we all know in the comics Black Adam was a bad guy, was a villain. So he wanted Black Adam to be a good guy, but he did not want to share the screen with Shazam. That was one thing Dwayne changed about that. He did not want to share the screen with Shazam. He thought Shazam should have his own movie. He should have his own movie. And he made a comment about Superman at the Comic-Con that he said that he needs to fight a Superman that's worth fighting. And I don't know if that was a thing against Henry Cavill or what it is, but I do know from what I hear at the end of this little TV spot, he goes and says to somebody that's standing right there, he goes, "I'm the strongest person this world has ever seen." And then someone says back to him, "But you're not the strongest person in my world."
Yeah, and supposedly, and I remember you telling me that, but him and Henry Cavill are pretty good friends. Yeah. So it's
It may have been planting seeds for a fucking Black Adam Superman movie, even.
Yeah.
Right. So I mean, like I said, it's context. A lot of these people will take quotes and then they'll try to spin it just to go ahead and make some sort of, especially when you're talking about journalists attached to like the comic book realm. The only ones that I really listen to is mainly Midnight's Edge, because they go deep and they're pretty reliable. And then, anybody connected like Yellow Flash and stuff like that, they're pretty much in the know for stuff like that. So I follow them. So like Scott Mendelton and all these other people, I don't really have any use for because they're shit stirrers anyways. So it's like pointless for me to read any of their articles. But like I said, it's I think that they are good for now. I don't know, because supposedly from what I hear, that they're trying to get Henry Cavill back, and I think that The Rock is a big part of them trying to get Henry Cavill back. And, that'd be a good thing. I do agree with you that changing some aspects of, like, Black Adam to fit, like, a narrative is going to end up hurting a lot, particularly with people who are going to be wanting to see Hawkman and wanting to see, what's the other guy that they're bringing back? God. He's another character that I like, but I just drawing a blank on his name. He's kind of like usually a co-character. He's in a lot of stuff, but but you know what I'm talking about, the other characters. Some of the characters that they're bringing in, this could have been a really, really good movie, but it's not testing very high with the audiences. And I could tell you right now that, like, for me personally, normally I wait about a week now, particularly when these movies drop, to see the reactions, because I've wasted so much money towards, like, man, I shouldn't have even went to go see this movie. You know, you've taken 2 hours of my life and I had to spend money to go see it, and I feel like so I wait now before I go see these movies.
I'm robbed of it.
Yeah. And so, you know, if it turns out to be one of these stinkers, and like I said, this is going to be one of those things that was already made before I guess what you would say, the Great Purge of the DCEU. So, The Flash, Black Adams, these are part of the stuff that they were doing with the old regime. So, you know, like I said, you know, the one that I'm excited for is Constantine. I'm like PK. You know, Keanu Reeves coming back as Constantine. I think that the first one didn't do so well in the box office, but it ended up getting a cult following. I didn't even see. I saw it on VHS, or I saw it on DVD. But I saw it after it came out. There wasn't much marketing for it. But once I saw it, I was like, man, this is great. And I ended up buying the movie. I do think that there's enough fan base out there for this next one to go ahead and be a big money genre for DC, is Constantine. So it's one of those things to where, you know, we'll have to see how it goes. And,
They've also got to market it correctly, too. If they market it properly, it'll be one of their bigger hits.
So
I'll say this, that, you know, word of mouth, I think, will keep it from failing, because, like, you know, I know about it now, and I've already shared it. Various other people they're kind of excited about it, so they shared it. And so it's kind of like how Deadpool started out. That's the way Ryan marketed Deadpool. It wasn't a big advertising campaign. He wasn't buying ads on, you know, HBO or something. He just got on the internet, and it spread through word of mouth because all the Deadpool fans were excited, me included. You know what I'm saying? And that's how he marketed Deadpool. And so I think that it's going to be something similar for Constantine this time. I don't think that the fans will let it fail this time. Like last time.
I have this thing about the Constantine. Now, it's a really good cult classic. Now, the thing about that was Keanu Reeves was a big name, but he wasn't as big as he is now. And so now, with the whole John Wick, doing the whole John Wick stuff, the one thing I'm worried about for Keanu is when you watch the new, when I watched the new Bill and Ted, and then I saw the new The Matrix, when you see him now, he can't get the John Wick part of him off of him now. Like, it's kind of, you know how actors get stuff stuck with them. The John Wick thing is stuck with him now.
But
So
at the same time, that kind of can help with Constantine, because Constantine it is a grittier looking character in a lot of the comics. He's not the clean shaven, like, business, like, he looks like he's your rugged, rough around the edges character guy.
Now, for the poster that I shared, it's a short-haired. It's not the long hair like John Wick has. It's the short hair, and he doesn't have a full beard. He's got, like, you know, the pork chops. He looks like, you know,
5 o'clock shadow kind of thing going.
Right. Yeah, he's got the 5 o'clock shadow thing going, but it's not like the John Wick full, you know, John Wick thing he's got going on.
Yeah.
So I mean, you know, I think that they're gonna stay fairly true to the character, and since Keanu has been wanting to do this, I think he'll be fair to the character too. So the deal with, like, you know, I think that like the Matrix thing, and really at the end of the day, Bill and Ted both, you know, I just think that they really wanted to do Bill and Ted. I think it was half-hearted. And I think it was, well, you have to do this and you have to do that if you want to go ahead and get this film passed. And they just made a lot of concessions with it. So I don't think that they took that movie entirely too seriously. And The Matrix, we all know, is just a cash grab. It was and even Warner Brothers played into that whenever they were making the movie. They deliberately said that this is a cash grab to everybody. I watched it, Don't get me wrong, and I thought it was okay. I kind of thought it was a sufficient ending. I don't think you could build off of it, but I thought it was a great send off to both Trinity and Neo. I didn't totally hate it like everybody else did, but was it the best? Absolutely not. But you're not going to be able to get that magic that you had with the first Matrix. But it was a good ending. But
You know,
like I said,
I never got into that series. Never got into it.
I was going to ask you guys this one, like one of the last few things we talked about before we would start wrapping it up. One thing I wanted to ask you guys is out of most of the comic book movies you guys have seen, what has been your guilty pleasure? Like, to like where you hear some people don't like the movie, but you like it. Like, you know, you really like what you see compared to what most people would say.
Hulk. Not Incredible Hulk. Hulk.
The 2003 Hulk. Okay.
Yes, Eric Bana.
Mm.
That one catches so much shit that once in a while, I'll admit, I'll guilty pleasure. I'll turn that on. I don't think it was a really shitty story. It touched on a lot of the Hulk's actual background, his family abuse, his father, and shit like that. The only thing that people really didn't like is that as Eric Bana's Hulk got madder, he also got taller to where he topped out at like 10 foot, 12 foot tall. But, I mean, aside from that, the story was straight out of what Hulk was. So, it works.
Is that the only one you got? So,
That's the only one that's really going to catch a lot of crap. I mean, because Constantine's got its cult following. Punisher still kind of has a little bit of a popularity. The thing that I didn't like about Punisher is that they made the Saint family and Harry Heck just essentially so minor characters. Harry Heck is on screen for all of about 2 minutes in the Punisher movie.
Yeah.
In the comics, he has a pretty good lengthy run before Frank Castle kills him. So, for what it's worth for those, but I mean, those are really the only ones that anybody really ever complains about. DC, I don't really ever. It's either a complete love on DC or a complete hate. There's not really any middle ground with that, and the only one you really ever hear anybody completely shitting on is Batman and Robin, and maybe Batman Forever. And for what it's worth, those movies aren't horrible, horrible movies either. It's just, as Batman fans for that time and time frame, we got spoiled by Batman 89 and then Batman Returns, which were darker, grittier versions of Batman, and Forever and Batman and Robin were more of a kid-friendly movie, like we were getting with the animated series. So, collectively, Hulk 2003 is the only movie I've ever seen just get completely shit on without any jokes being made. Like, people make the jokes about the bat nipples and shit like that, but the only hate that really ever comes from those movies are towards actor performances, but not the movie itself.
what you, Chronicle?
I have a few. Of course, Superman 4, it gets a lot of hate. But like I said, when you have great actors like Christopher Reeves, Gene Hackman, and a young John Cryer in that movie, to me, it's still fun and it still works. Like I said, there yet again, Superman's still weak. He has to overcome adversity. And it's still telling the same story, but it's a Superman movie. So I'm going to, of course, be biased and like it. And I still like Superman 4. Of course, one that seems to get unjust due, and I think is a great film, is The Daredevil with Ben Affleck in it. I absolutely thought that was a great Daredevil. I thought a lot of the scenes were great in it. Bullseye is a great character. Jon Favreau is a great writer. Like I said, it just, to me, it hit everything that what a dark comic book movie should have been. And another one that I like, and this one's going to be a very guilty pleasure because this one is very unpopular, and I actually think that it's in some ways better than Endgame, and that's Captain Marvel. I didn't hate it. I thought that the Brie Larson did okay in the movie, and like PK said earlier, it's basically because of the stuff that she did off of camera that made people resent the movie. But the little alien guy, I forget who played the alien guy. It's been a while since I've seen it. Did a pretty good job. Of course, you had Samuel L. Jackson in there, and he did a great job.
Sure.
And the movie wasn't horrible to me. It still had its moments of lightheartedness, and I liked it. But like I said, it gets a lot of hate, and it's one of those movies I thought was a decent movie. However, I get why people were so irritated, and it was because of the Me Too stuff going on, and
that movie came in like right at the peak of the hashtag Me Too movement going on too, and it's nobody's arguing that, and it seemed like Marvel was trying to play catch up because DC had dropped Wonder Woman, and it performed phenomenally for DC, and that's probably one of DC's better live action ones that was a hit. And so Marvel's like, oh shit, we don't have a character like this, so now I feel like they also tried to rush it.
And to be fair, and I got Wonder Woman. I liked the movie for what it was.
Yeah,
but it took a lot of inspiration.
Second one was
It took a lot of inspiration from the original Superman movie. If you look at how they did Wonder Woman, whenever Diana Prince, whenever she came here, a lot of it was basically done in the original Superman movie. And it took a lot of inspirations from Marvel properties and, Captain America and whatnot with the World War II stuff. So it really did take a lot of inspiration from a lot of different movies. But yeah, they hit a home run with that one. And I think that you're right. I think that that's one of the issues that Marvel's like, oh, well, we need to do our own. And
I think I'm sorry to interrupt you. I think that is the ultimate way that people can make it to where you're going to make a movie that you're definitely going to still find a way to get behind the hero or the heroine, is make it that World War II era where it's, hey, they got to fight the Nazis. Because everybody, and I mean, it's not just because what society has turned out. It's because the Nazis they weren't fucking good people. What they did was just downright fucking evil and brutal, and it always makes you great to see somebody that's labeled as a Nazi get fucking punched in the side of the head by the hero. So, I mean, it was a recipe. So, yeah, exactly like you were saying. They took that aspect of World War II, like out of Captain America, and made it to where it was going to be fucking great. Whether it was you could have picked the worst fucking character probably on the DC universe and stuck it in that, and it would have been a fucking box office hit because of it.
I have a few guilty pleasures. On the DC side, Superman 4. I thought it was, even though a lot of people shit on it, and you can also put Superman 3 in there too, but Superman 4, they kind of shit on it, and I'm just like, you just can't go, you can't go wrong with Christopher Reeve as Superman. Anytime I look at Superman, Christopher Reeve is the man that comes in my mind on that one. Superman Returns.
Dean Cain.
Like
Superman. Give Dean Cain some help.
Yeah, and I actually even told that to Dean Cain. I mean, it's not Dean Cain's fault. I mean, but like I said, Kev is about the same age as me. That's our Superman. You know what I'm saying? And so it's hard. And I agree. Superman Returns.
And for what it's worth, though, Dean Cain didn't do horrible in it. He did what he could with being on a made-for-TV style series.
Yeah,
They tried to find somebody that looked like Christopher Reeve, obviously, without being able to use Christopher Reeve, because I feel he actually kind of looked the part like Christopher left off with.
I love Terry Hatcher's Lois Lane.
Yes.
Fucking nailed it. God, and I had such a crush on Terry Hatcher back then, too.
Oh, yeah. I'm not going to lie. The Adventures of Lois and Clark is really the only, aside from animated cartoons and stuff, is the only kind of Superman thing I really could ever get into. Nothing against Christopher Reeve. I just couldn't get into the 1980s Superman movies. Ironically enough, being a Marvel fan, I should be used to people that are completely overpowered as shit, but it was just because of that being just at a young age, seeing somebody who's so overpowered that it seems like nothing could really, yes, even though I know that there's a story at like 5, 6, 7 years old, you don't think about the logical part of it. You just see the character and you don't see the struggle they go through.
Actually,
I couldn't.
I'll say this because you mentioned Superman Returns, and Brandon Roth played an amazing Superman. Personally, the only issues that I have with Superman Returns is they, retcon both 3 and 4. You know what I'm saying? That's the issue right there. And I think that, instead of Kate Bosworth, bring in Rashida Jones. She looks more like Margot Kidder. And, then, continue from, bring in Eisenberg that you had for Lex Luthor, which whoever thought that was a good idea, I don't know, should be, whatever. But you could have brought him in as Jimmy Olsen, and that
probably would have worked out better.
It would have worked out better. I think that Brandon Roth as Superman did a hell of a job. He did a hell of a job as Clark Kent and Superman.
Actually, another guilty pleasure I have, and I'll get to Marvel in just a minute. With DC, I have a guilty pleasure for Batman Forever. I actually don't think it was that bad.
No,
I like that one. That was one of my favorites.
Yeah, it wasn't. Really
it does have its seeming moments of campiness at the same time, but it's got a solid solid acting crew. It does have a really good story. It introduces Dick, so it introduces Robin. I enjoyed it, and I don't shit on that movie. And to me, that's not one of my guilty pleasures. That's one of my go-to Batman movies still, even at mid-30s.
I actually like.
And I think Jim Carrey didn't do horrible as Enigma, as Riddler.
I actually like Val Kilmer, and a lot of people.
He catches a lot of extra crap but he does. I think he did pretty good as fucking Batman too, and Bruce. I think he looked the part very well, and I think he filled in for Keaton pretty damn good too. To me, Michael Keaton will always be Batman first, and that's because he literally, to me, looked like that playboy that would be living that double life, even more so than individuals like Val Kilmer, or Christian Bale. Christian Bale, I can't stand his voice for Batman. Bruce Wayne, all right. Maybe a younger Wayne. But Batman, I can't stand the sounding like I just got done smoking 20 cigars.
What do you mean?
Word to me. What the fuck? I can't.
Scary Face. What did you do with Harvey Face and Scary Face? Two-Face. Where's Scary Face?
I actually, to be honest with you, this is going to take a lot of slack too. I actually enjoyed Arnold's performance as Mr. Freeze. I know that's going to take some slack from people, but for what it's worth, I mean, Arnold got paid a lot of money to play Mr. Freeze, and he did it campy, but it was what it was supposed to be. It was supposed to be campy.
Yep.
So
I think Uma did really good as Ivy too. She looked the part, played the part right. The only, aside from the bat nipples, some of the cheesy ass dialogue.
Yeah, that was what killed it.
That's the only thing that really gets shit on is the bat card, card. Never leave the cave without it. Like, yeah, let's plug the fucking Discover card anymore.
See, that's what I was telling Kev, is that and I know everybody here is a Michael Keaton guy, but let's just say that they would have bought in a younger George Clooney back in the days, and then you would have given him that character, but say, I want you to be the same character as you was from Dusk Till Dawn. I think that could have worked.
Yeah.
And that would have worked. And so, but see, they made George Clooney's character just with these, and this is one of the issues that I don't like about The Flash right now, is that every kind of little joke or pun that he tried to was all cliche-ish. You know what I'm saying? For the time.
Yeah.
And so it fell to hit. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't just being witty. It was just like cheap marketing stunts and stuff. And so people, kind of feel kind of insulted by stuff like that nowadays, because it is so cliche. That's one of the issues that like I have with the Flash, even whenever I was watching him in Justice League, is a lot of his dialogue was kind of cliche. His delivery was kind of over the top, and it was kind of like he was doing more method acting than he was reacting to off of his characters and whatnot.
Yeah.
So that's why it's like if they go a different direction with the Flash, I don't think that's go with Wally West. You know what I'm saying? And go ahead.
Isn't Wally the one that busted up broke the Speed Force and everything? Isn't Barry Allen kind of like the bastard child of the Flashes anyway? If I remember right, because he's not even the original. Because Wally West isn't even the original Flash. If I'm remembering correctly, I mean, please, if I'm wrong, somebody correct me big time.
I'm not sure on that because I don't follow the Flash very
Yeah,
well.
I forget if Wally West was the original Flash or if it was somebody else. But like they've kind of went over the continuity so many times, it's kind of hard to tell which one of these characters are which.
Yeah. Now the last DC movie that I'm guilty pleasure with, and I know people are going to shoot me for this, I did like Batman v Superman. Now the reason why. And I thought Ben did a good job as Batman. I did like Gal as Wonder Woman. The problem I had with that movie was Jesse Eisenberg as Lex Luthor did not do it for me. I felt like the trailer showed too much. I wouldn't have brought in no Doomsday that looked like a big Ninja Turtle at first.
If you were gonna bring in Doomsday, at least make Doomsday look like fucking Doomsday.
Exactly.
And I'll tell you, that should have been a solo Superman movie, anyways. He had no business. He had no business being. Batman had no business being there. Wonder Woman had, because even in the comics, they weren't there. They were doing other stuff. Whenever Superman.
I mean, in the comics, no, you're right, they didn't. But when they made the animated movie, The Death of Superman, they had the entire Justice League fighting Doomsday.
But the reason why they didn't put him in the comics is because they knew they were already going to lose the Superman, for a while.
They didn't want to lose somebody else.
Yeah, they didn't want to lose Wonder, and they knew that Wonder Woman and Batman would end up fighting Doomsday to the death. It wouldn't make any sense. Yeah. So that's one of the things is why it's like the animated. I've watched it. They've never done Doomsday right in any kind of iteration other than the comic books. But they had him fight all the. I guess they were still
up.
Yeah,
the Justice League.
And so like with Doomsday, I think that they should have brought in somebody like Brainiac. And the issue that I have, and I've grown to like Superman v Batman over time. After watching some of these watching the movies kind of decline as far, so I have a little bit more of an appreciation. It was just too long, too much of the backstories that should have been explained already. Yep. And you're right. There was no need to have Doomsday. Bring in Brainiac. Perfect villain. They could have teamed up, and that you'd bring in. I said that if I was to bring in Brainiac, I would do the guy who played Doug Bradley, the guy who played Pinhead. Bring him in as Brainiac.
Yeah, that would have been good.
And then, go ahead.
You could have brought in. Oh Christ! I can't even say the little fucker's name.
I know you're Mr. Mixapedaliac.
Yeah. Bring him in. He's one of Superman's more famous villains too, and he's one that Superman always has fucking trouble with. So it would have been a perfect way for it to be the Batman and Superman aspect of, hey,
bring in the Gilbert
enough brains to where he could find a way to beat this guy.
Bring in the Gilbert Godfrey version of that character too. That'd be hilarious.
I think the one thing I would have done with that movie was I would have had Batman and Wonder Woman show up there at the end for like Superman's funeral, and then kind of like show that they need to get something formed together or something like that. But the one scene in that movie that I love the most is when Batman goes in there.
Why did you say that name?
Not that scene, but the one where he busts in there and he fights those guys in that warehouse. That one right there is like pure. If you ever played the Arkham games on the PlayStation and Xbox,
I have them.
That one right there proves that he just come in there and just did not give a shit.
And
Now,
that's one of the things that I was telling you whenever it came out, because everybody's like, "Oh, well, Ben Affleck is going to be Batman," and I think I told you, I said, "You're going to like Ben Affleck as Batman." I said his choreography, everything that he did for
Daredevil.
Daredevil. That's what I liked it. That's one of the reasons why I liked it. And it looked like they did the same thing for Batman, so they had the same kind of vision. So I knew you was gonna like that. I knew you was gonna like that.
Now
he didn't do a bad job.
Now, as far as Marvel goes, a lot of people don't know about this film. I don't know if you two know this one. I like the 1990 Captain America movie that came to TV. It was like a TV movie. I actually like that one. It's kind of it's a guilty.
I've never seen it, but I have heard of it.
Yeah,
I saw it. It was hard to get into for me personally, but
I have a guilty pleasure for Daredevil. I did like Daredevil. I love Thomas Jane's Punisher. I have a guilty pleasure for the Punisher. It's
now
for me.
Have you ever seen the first iteration of Punisher though? Too
Dolph Lundgren.
With Dolph Lundgren.
Yep.
Yeah.
Not a lot of people know about that one. Believe it or not, people think that Thomas Jane was still the first one. No, there was 1984,
5 or 6, something like that.
Yeah.
Mid 1980s. Dolph Lundgren played the Punisher, and for
he
what
also
it was worth at that time, it wasn't a horrible movie either.
And he played one of my guilty pleasures, He-Man Masters of the Universe.
Well, if you're gonna go with the Dolph Lundgren, and we're gonna recreate the MCU around Dolph Lundgren now, you have to go with David Hasselhoff's Nick Fury.
Oh, good Lord!
Yeah, because and see, to a degree, when they started making the MCU movies, well, what is now the MCU movies. As much as I liked Samuel L. Jackson, that's where I had a hard time getting into that because of them doing that, because of all the comics and all the video games and every other iteration you had seen of Nick Fury prior to that was that
David Hasselhoff.
It was that old, crusted, grizzled white dude that looked like he'd seen some shit. It wasn't the younger looking, I guess, grizzled black dude that looked like he'd seen some shit. I can't really think of a way to put it other than that, but
yeah, it took a lot of people, but like I said, and then in fact, whenever it took me a while to even get it, whenever he showed up at the end of Iron Man, I was like
okay,
who the fuck is this? Yeah, that's what it was like. I was like, oh, okay, I get it now. It took me a while. I didn't get it at first, and everybody was like, oh, that's fucking Nick Fury. I'm like, but I thought it was white,
Yeah, it's like Nick Fury's a fucking pasty old white dude. Yeah. Go back, read a comic. He's on the front cover of some of these, and now it's supposed to be like, what is it, retconned? It's Nick Fury from a different multiverse, or it's his kid, or something like that.
You know, it was good. The Ice Age, yeah.
For a second there, I thought that was an old Vince McMahon mask.
Yeah.
Like it looks like an old Vinnie Mac, not Arnold.
Well, it was supposed to be an Arnold one a long time ago. I had this, and it was like got vented up. But yeah, it's supposed to be an Arnold mask.
Yeah, now it looks like Ronald Reagan.
Yeah.
Now,
I thought it would be kind of a cool, because I'm actually going to do my picks for Steven Rose's tournament champions. I'm going to do it in the Arnold mask.
Do the Arnold mask.
oh yeah. Them Cowboys. Cooper Rush is the next Tom Brady.
No, but another Marvel guilty pleasure of mine is I know a lot of people don't talk about it, but I love a lot of the Blades, but I like Blade Trinity. A lot of people don't. Some people.
So do I.
It's not a bad movie for what it was worth. I mean, it did have some stuff that was kind of like it seemed like they were just trying to cash in on the name at that point.
Yeah.
But they also changed a lot from the comics to to the adaptation of the films that we got too. So,
And it had Jessica Biel's sexy ass in it. So
yep.
I do love the first Blade. I think the first Blade really doesn't get a lot of leeway, but the first Blade was really done really well.
Yeah, I think the first one still is. Don't get me wrong, the second one was great, but the first one I think was still spot on the best one of the three. And then I don't even talk about the series.
Now I was going to ask you guys is, who do you think should play Lobo on DC? If you were to cast Lobo,
Danny Trejo, that would be who I would cast.
it's not a bad one actually.
I could get behind that. Unfortunately, I don't know a whole hell of a lot about that character, so I don't know. I don't want to say something here or there about it, and I'd have to do a little bit more in-depth searching, like research onto the character of Lobo.
Maybe Johnny Depp too. Since he's going to be back in movies again, since he's un-Me Too'd or whatever the hell they call it nowadays.
Yeah.
He would fit it pretty well too, since he was a pirate in Pirates of the Caribbean, and technically,
what is the character? What is the character supposed to be like? Is he supposed to be like an unhinged, or
he's like a space pirate basically? He's a bounty hunter, and basically he collects bounties and whatnot. So like the pirate thing goes along with him.
okay?
He's actually technically he was supposed to be DC's answer to Wolverine. Basically, the character, much like Deadpool, is kind of like a satire of Deathstroke. That's basically what he is of Wolverine.
I could see Johnny Depp probably doing that then, but I mean, do you have him play as a comical, or do you have him try to play? Because
Lobo's a comical character.
Yeah.
I was going to say, because I didn't, like I said, since I didn't really know anything about the character, I didn't know if you would play it as a comical style or if it was supposed to be a gritty serious. But it's supposed to be a kind of a comical. Yeah, I think Johnny Depp could.
Do you have HBO Max by any chance?
Yes, I do.
Okay, so there's a animated Superman movie.
Okay.
And Superman, Man of Steel. It's like whenever Superman's first starting out, Lobo is hunting him as a bounty hunter.
Okay.
And, that's a good one to check out if you want to get to understand Lobo. Lobo is one of those guys that they would bring in, which would have been another great character to bring in Batman v Superman, was Lobo as the villain that they have to fight. He's looking for Superman. He's the Kryptonian and whatnot. That would have been a great character because he is, technically he's a good guy, but he's seen as more of an anti-hero basically. So he can go either way. He's a pretty compelling character to go ahead and put in and play with.
Here's a little fun game here. If we, me and Poston are going to pick this first. If we could cast PK as any character in any Marvel or DC movie, which character do you think he would play good as?
You know what? And I know that this is not a popular character, but it's a character that I kind of have a lot of respect for because he's more relatable. I'd probably cast him as like Hawkeye myself.
Hell yes. Hawkeye or Ronin?
Yeah. Either two, they're the same guy, really, at the end of the day. But yeah.
Well, yeah, but it's different.
You have to go through your midlife crisis to get Ronin. So.
Yeah, true.
So let's see. Let's see, PK. Who, as far as the Marvel movies, not DC but Marvel, who we cast as the Prodigal Hill as?
Honestly, I don't know because you've known Prodigal a lot better. You've had more interactions. I've only had a couple, just like he's only had a couple with me here. So the fact that he actually, ironically, that's one of my favorite MCU and Marvel characters. So that means a lot to me that's the first thing that your mind went to.
I actually would cast the Prodigal. If it wasn't for Ryan Reynolds, I would have cast him as Deadpool. But I probably would also cast him as Iron Man as well. Just because of how smart he is.
I could get
I
behind
could live
that.
with that. Yeah, because those are like, well, like the Iron Man's my favorite MCU character, but Deadpool's kind of like my favorite X-Men kind of character, I guess.
Yeah.
No, actually, technically, my favorite character would probably be Remy LeBeau, Gambit.
Gambit's
I don't care.
that's a good one because you've got. I could see that because
Yeah.
it seems like you've got a little bit of a sassy side that you don't fucking tell us all about.
Oh no, trust me, everybody knows my sassy side.
Fair enough. That I haven't seen.
So
But
okay,
yeah, and I mean that would definitely fit right in line with Remy, who
So
you
I'll
could
go-
bring him in. You could bring him in for an X-Men movie because we really haven't seen him. We had the one interaction with him from
X-Men
Origins, and yeah, because there was something that, God damn it, there was something I was gonna say when we were getting ready to start before Kev went off with asking that shit.
Now, I got
Oh.
one for Kev. I got one for Kev. I know who you would be. Incredible Hulk. You know, because you've got that duality to you a little, but you have to working in security, where you're kind of like a nice guy, but don't get me angry, because, and I've done that too. Don't get me wrong, I can kind of be that a little bit because I worked in security too. But that's like, you know, working in security, it's almost like a necessity where it's like, yeah, I'm a nice guy, but don't get me angry.
I can get behind that one too.
I've actually got a lot of Bruce Banner and Hulk in me, so yeah, I can live with that. And now I wouldn't be the Hulk that would get his ass whooped by Thanos. No, I would actually be the Edward Norton Hulk that would be whooping ass. But
I mean, for what it's worth, for that one, I understand why the hell they did that, because in the comics, Thanos at least knows that the Hulk is a legitimate, serious threat. They didn't just, I mean, the MCU unfortunately didn't do the Hulk any justice or any good, but you got to kind of nerf some of the characters. You got to kind of nerf them somewhere, and unfortunately, that's about the only way that you could nerf the Hulk, because in any comics situation, Thanos tries to avoid the Hulk if at all possible, aside from the one instance where he turned the Hulk into his fucking pet and put him on a fucking leash.
And I'll say this, as far as like the fight between Thanos and the Hulk, really at the end of the day, Thanos really didn't do that much to the Hulk. It just looked like the Hulk was just kind of reluctant to fight at that point. Like he was already done before do you see those hits? And he really wasn't even facing the Hulk too much. But
no, he was, because he definitely had taken harder shots. Hell, he fell out of the sky probably to hit the ground harder as Hulk after the explosion on that fucking plane in Avengers 1. Probably got more force than what Thanos' punches were doing.
I have to say Remington's right though. Remington said Hulk's his job, so yeah, he looks like a Hulk. I would actually go with that.
Sorry, Rem, but you're at the gym, so you dropped out, so you lost your shot on this one. So we had to give it to Kev by default.
Now, if I would get my hair pretty good, I can actually look like Wolverine if I wanted to. But Hulk's a good one. Now we're gonna do a DC one. Who now for the prodigal heel for DC? Like who would you think? PK.
Now, are we able to pick like just any character, or are we picking just a hero? All right, now hear me out on this one, and I'm going this because of the intelligence factor, but I'm saying Lex, just because Lex is one of the smartest guys in the room, and he fucking knows it.
I could live with that because that was, being a Superman fan, Gene Hackman is my Lex Luthor. So yeah, I can definitely live with Lex Luthor.
So what about PK? Let's see what we can figure out. What you got for him, Poston?
Let me see. Because this one's a little bit harder because I got to go through a lot of DC characters. Let me see. Man, because you always go. You know what? I like this guy. This is actually one of my other guilty pleasures in the DCEU. but I could see him probably doing this probably since he's also kind of like a wrestler and an entertainer. And nobody really mentions this guy a lot, but he is one of the Green Lanterns. And, he kind of walks to the beat of his own drum, and that's Guy Gardner. Do you remember Guy Gardner?
I do. Very little, but yes, I do.
He's a great character. He just does his own thing, and he's one of those guys who's not going to take any shit.
Okay, cool.
Did you need more?
And of course, Big Kev is Batman because you're kind of like a recluse. You don't like to go out too much. You like the darker stuff, particularly like your interviews with the Blair Witch, anything paranormal. You do a lot of paranormal investigations and stuff like that. We're still investigations. Plus, you work in security, so it kind of fits your character pretty well.
I would have to be Ben's Batman because I couldn't be the others.
You're not going to be Michael Keaton. You're not going to be George Clooney and try to go through drive-through.
No. I'd be the Batman that would
with the Discover card.
Give a shit. Yeah, it's
Never leave the cave without it.
Burger King.
Yeah. You could do an Arnold Schwarzenegger Batman as Commando. Where he's
Yeah, stop with your head, Joker. I get you.
look. I'm hanging on. Look, this is my weak arm.
How you doing?
Drop you off this building.
No, actually, I told Mel that if there was any character in Marvel that she reminded me of, it was Scarlet Witch or Gamora, just because of how her personality is. But as far as DC goes with her, I don't know. She's definitely not a Harley Quinn, that's for sure.
Is she more of an Oracle? Maybe.
She's very.
I was who was that? She was in the Superman versus Doomsday series. Maximus, maybe the green-haired girl. Do you remember her?
Yeah,
and she was kind of like an Amazon too. I think that would be Mel, to me personally. Because, she's not going to listen to anybody. She's going to do her own thing. And whenever she's out of control, you're not going to be able to control her. She's just going to keep on fighting. Superman had to stop her because he's like, this guy, she was still fighting Doomsday. He's like, this guy's going to kill you. And so, Superman had to try to stop her, but she wasn't having none of it.
I think Rem would be a good, Rem would look like a good Lobo or a Superman, maybe. If you get him with the big old.
Before we get wrapped up here, I am kind of curious what you guys thought how earlier we were talking about the Spider-Man universe and everything. What's your guys' thoughts about Venom and then Venom 2? Like, I liked Venom. Unfortunately, Riot, they kind of underperformed with, because Riot, I think, in the comics is a lot better. Specifically, though, what did you guys think about Woody Harrelson as Cletus Cassidy Carnage?
I like both of them. I do. And I did think that Woody Harrelson knocked Cletus Cassidy out of the park. I did like his Cletus. The way that they done Venom with Tom Holland and his alter ego Venom, it's just really good. And like I said, I like how this is a movie that they did for the fans. Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
I think Tom Hardy is a really good Brock, Eddie Brock and Venom. I like Woody Harrelson as Cletus. It sucks what they did to Carnage though for the movie, because they kind of gave it, like, in the comics he doesn't really have like a love interest. They made him like a love struck, not just the psychopath. And I unfortunately think that they I don't think they should have killed him. I don't think they should have had Eddie Brock Venom kill Cassidy at the end. maybe beat him up, knock him the fuck out, but kill him.
I'll tell you one of the things that I like about it.
Back and
And
realize, oh fuck, we dropped a ball.
This is one of the things that I like about the Venomverse, and while I agree they shouldn't have just killed off Carnage, because there's so much you could do with that character.
Well, that is Venom's essential Joker version of that's
Right.
Batman and Joker of the for Marvel Universe is Venom the anti-hero vigilante kind of thing, and Carnage is his just psychopath.
But
No redeeming qualities.
I'll tell you one thing. The thing that I liked about this Venom is that, first off, my favorite Spider-Man is Andrew Garfield, the Amazing Spider-Man. It's another one of those guilty pleasures.
He doesn't get enough love.
Right. So that's my favorite Spider-Man. The Venom has to be from that universe because it can't be from Tobey Maguire's universe because he already essentially killed
him. Essentially,
yeah, he's already killed him, and he can't be from Tom Holland's universe because he disappeared.
Yeah.
So he's definitely
not only that, but I mean, these characters are supposed to be around the same age group, and you can't have a mid-40s guy like Eddie Brock fighting against a teenager that just got out of high school or is still in high school with Tom Holland as Spider-Man.
Right. So, I like
they're supposed to be in school together, for fuck's sake.
I like the fact that it still says, well, Sony can still do properties. If Andrew Garfield ever gets the passion to play Spider-Man again and to take up, they can still do that. Yeah. So
he wants to make another one, and unfortunately, he's the only one who's been kind of snubbed and not given a third film. And I think that would be a perfect way to have it come back, is have him do a third one and have him bring in Venom.
And to be honest with you, and I've talked to Kev about this, with Deadpool, are you really think that Deadpool in a cameo with Tom Holland is the right Spider-Man to do a Deadpool cameo, or do you think it would be better to do it with like Andrew Garfield, because they would play off better with each other?
It'd be better to use Bully Maguire or Andrew Garfield,
right?
Sure.
With the Deadpool,
mm-hmm.
So and especially with like your grittier stuff, like your Punishers, your Daredevils and stuff. That the darker genre, if you're trying to go ahead and finance these movies and you're desperate at because you're doing the She-Hulk stuff and it's not bringing any money, if you give these properties over to Sony will be able to do more with like your Punishers and your Ghost Riders and your Morpheuses and all these other darker characters than Disney is going to be able to do. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, and,
hopefully we don't get any stupid lines again, like, it's Morbin time.
Yeah.
I watched that movie, and I finally understood why the fuck there were so many memes when he actually said it, and I'm just like...
I have to say this about Jared Leto. Jared Leto, I know that you were upset because you didn't think you got a time to beat a Joker, and you're upset about the whole Morpheus, but to be honest with you, you don't fit in the comic world, buddy. I'm sorry, but you don't.
He doesn't.
That just is what it is.
If they'd have had him in a Christian Bale Batman movie and he killed him, that'd have been the second time that his character would have been killed off by Christian Bale.
Yeah. American Psycho, yep. Now, I'm going to ask you guys this.
The only thing that would random thought. The only thing that would make it better is if they were listening to, what was it, Huey Lewis again when that scene happened.
Oh, let's go ahead and break that fourth wall down.
The power of love.
Oh my God! Have that as he drops him in the vat of chemicals.
So I think on the next episode we're gonna talk more. We're gonna go more in depth with the other comics that are out there, like like The Crow and stuff that is not like Marvel and DC, and we'll talk about some Hasbro stuff because I don't know if these guys follow the GI Joe or Transformers, but I know we got the Turtles on there. That somebody was asking me to talk about the Turtles next time, so I was like, "Oh, we'll talk about the Turtles next time." But I will say this though, the biggest thing about these movies right now is that a lot of people have a hard time catching up with them because there's too many characters. And in order for DC and Marvel to get to where they need to be, like you were saying, Particle, about DC needs to take time. They need to take time building their characters.
I'm definitely down for part 2, Kev.
Oh yes.
The fucking history of the Turtles right there.
So I mean, I think if DC can turn it around and start focusing on their characters and just one by one and focus on them, and then do a big old team up movie.
They've got the characters, and the way I've always viewed it is when it goes for Warner Brothers and DC, they do phenomenal when it comes to making any kind of an animated film.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But then when you go to make it live action, it tanks. It's the exact opposite I've seen with MCU, with Marvel. When they've done movies up until recently, then when they did the live action movies, they were phenomenal. When they tried to do animated, it fucking tanked.
And I think that a lot of it has to do with them being more cash grab from both sides. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
For DC, whenever they do the live action, it's just they're doing a lot of the stuff just for the cash grab, trying to create. And for Marvel, it's the same way. They'll have an Avengers or an Iron Man come out, and it'll do really well. And their animated is just usually comes out after, and it's a cash grab because of the popularity of their movie. So they're stuck. You got to have somebody that's gonna have, because if you go back and you listen to when they were doing Superman, Mario Puzo wanted to do Superman. You know what I'm saying? And so he put a lot of time, he put a lot of effort. He brought in Marlon Brando just to get people into the theaters because he wanted it to be successful. And now you have, especially, this is the issue that's going on right now with Disney in particular, because these are activists that are writing movies. And so they're trying to get out their little messaging. And this is one of the reasons it's hurting the properties.
It's happening on all sides of it. It doesn't matter what your political views are or your stances are. It's happening on all sides of the board, and the politics are getting put in. Whether it's far right, far left, it's still getting thrown into the fucking movies, and it's
right.
affecting everything as a whole.
Yeah, and you got to be. Oh, I was going to say you got to be passionate about the movie first. Yep. It seems like they're it's kind of like Thor: Love and Thunder. You're so much trying to put in these little issues and these little that you take away from the characters and whatnot. And whenever you start to do that, then people are going to be like, well, this is kind of generic looking. So, you need to have somebody that's going to be invested in the story first. And then if you want to go ahead and put in a message, but don't make it, make it obscure and don't devote that much time to it. This is one of the things that really killed me on the Batman movie. You know what I'm saying? The movie should be about Batman, not about your political views. And, it takes away from it. It takes away from the experience as a fan.
Are you talking about the new one now?
Yeah.
Okay, because I have not had a chance to see. It's on HBO. I just haven't had a chance to check it out.
Bro, it's 3 hours. Yeah,
I sat through the Zack Snyder cut of Justice League, so that was 4.
It took me 3 days to watch the Zack Snyder Justice League in the whole.
I sat through Forbidden Door for AEW in Chicago. That was 6 hours. So I think I can sit through the 3-hour Batman movie.
I will say this though: the one thing about 411 Thunder I love is the screaming goats.
Oh my god, that was great.
I
think, and for what it's worth, I think Christian Bale did pretty good as Gore also.
Yeah, he did. He stole the show on that one.
Yeah. He played the character kind of how I see it portrayed and how I've read it in the comics.
Yeah, and whenever I watched it, I was like, "Is that Christian Bale?" I'm like, "That damn
When
sure is
the-
Christian Bale."
When the movie first, when the start of it first came up, I was just like, it goes through the fucking previews and everything, and the preview ended, and then the movie immediately started. There was no like this movie has been rated as what it yada by the motion pit by the MPAA. Like, I'm sitting there watching it, and I thought I was starting to watch like a trailer for a new movie coming out. Like, I was looking forward to this. I'm like, oh my god, this is awesome. Then I realized who it was, and I'm like, fuck, now I kind of feel bad for the bad guy. Fuck, like, seriously, all he wants his fucking daughter back. What? The gods are sitting there like, nah, fuck you, buddy. You're screwed. I'd go after him too. They made the bad guy sympathetic. Like, you kind of understand the motives that he's got, but it's still one of those, like, you got to be stopped, dude. You can't do this shit. You can't kill them all just because of one. Kill the one. Fuck the rest.
What you did?
Yep.
Yeah, he did.
I'm gonna tag this video on Twitter because I know there's a lot of comic people on Twitter, so I'm gonna be curious to see what they say after they see this video. They're gonna be like,
any comments that you get, you're going to get the ones that are going to be like, you guys hit on all sorts of points, and then there's going to be the ones you're going to get the down the middle line of hate and respect.
Yeah.
Tag Scott Middleton.
Tag Scott Middleton. Okay.
Yeah. I think you better write for the Mary Sue or whatever the hell. Tag them too.
Fuck, you might as well tag Punk again. He writes for Marvel. He wrote a Thor comic, didn't he? I think it was what he was working on with Thor.
Oh, well, that last video we did, I tagged Punk in it, and now I went on his profile and I'm blocked. So
I'll say this. I do. If I was going to cast CM Punk in something, it'd be Casey Jones and the Ninja Turtles.
I can see that. I think he'd do better, even though I'd rather have Elias Kodas back.
Yeah, so would I.
He's getting too old, though.
Yeah.
But we're gonna, like I said, on the second one, we're gonna tag in on to that one. So if you guys are,
hell yeah, because that's my shit right there. I fucking grew up with the Ninja Turtles.
Then we're gonna talk about that.
Then we'll have to tag Kevin Nash so I can get blocked by that by saying when he watches that video, he'll blow a quad.
He probably did tour a quad.
Tear a quad or tear his bicep watching it and trying to type his response on Twitter.
He probably tore the quad trying to fucking block you on Twitter.
Tear the bicep writing the response, tear the quad trying to hit click OK, send.
But actually,
Sean, come help.
Out indefinitely.
I need you, Altman.
I will definitely talk about some Transformers too, because I got a lot of people that love that, and I grew up with that back in the 80s. So,
God, it's been so long since I've seen the 85 cartoon for that one.
Oh my God, the cartoon!
You can watch it on YouTube.
Yeah, cartoon.
No, I can. I have it on my fucking list of things to watch. I just haven't.
So do I.
I'm busy.
Yeah, the cartoon movies for free on YouTube, which is pretty interesting. So
I could probably get it on my Vudu too. I'd be worth paying $10-$12 for it to have it whenever I want to watch with no ads.
But anyways, guys, I always let y'all know that we had Rem in here earlier, but he had to do some stuff. We had some people that were going to come, but apparently they had to do some of their work stuff. We're going to start doing a horror panel too. So some of y'all who are into the horror movie genre, we're going to start tackling in on that one as well. And
anybody who checks this out, check out Notebook Videos too. Also, they did a review not too long ago of the new Jeepers Creepers movie. Mm-hmm. If you're interested in going to see it, mm-hmm. or if you go in with low expectations, but check out their review of that one. So I still kind of want to see it, but I listened to their review, so it may be different strokes, different folks. I may say, fuck, these guys hit it they hit the nail right on the head.
I've been going in with low expectations for Jeepers Creepers ever since part 2, so. Yeah. I like part 1, but I just knew that, it's going to be kind of hard to follow up on part 1.
Yeah. I got to agree with you on that one, Prodigal, and that's because after part one, he kind of loses his luster. He should be that mysterious style monster that doesn't stalk a large group of people, stalks the occasional one or two, maybe three people, and terrorizes the shit out of them before he finally takes whatever his true intended victim is.
Right, yeah. Because that's what it was in the first one.
Yep.
And
I think that recipe, and a lot of that also was the actors in that one, but that's for a different panel, a different time. So we're not going to get into that one here.
Yeah, that'll be for another time.
No dying over there, Mel.
Nah. That'll be for another time because I think the horror panel we're going to talk about the Halloween, and then we're going to talk about this new Hellraiser and a couple other.
We're on what, Hellraiser Part 72?
Yeah. But we'll talk about that later, guys. I want to thank Prodigal Hill and I want to thank PK Bauer for coming in. I want to see, and we saw the guest star of PK's dog over here. He's been guest starring ever since. Come on.
Cute puppy.
Come on in here. There we go.
Oh,
Cute. Yeah.
That's cutie.
There's my goddess.
Yeah. Once it's 5 minutes of fame, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, she does. She's a camera whore. Aren't you, baby girl?